Monitoring jobs and inflation is crucial for understanding the key indicators that shape economic health, policy decisions, and everyday life. This overview will guide us through the vital economic compass that these indicators provide. Behind every statistic is a person facing financial stress, lost routines, and an uncertain future. Understanding unemployment begins with recognizing its deeply human consequences. Unemployment affects society at every level, from lost economic output and personal hardship to increased social costs. It's more than just a number, it's a reality with far-reaching consequences. The unemployment rate measures the percentage of the labor force that is jobless and actively seeking work. As of March 2026, the U.S. unemployment rate held steady at 4.3%. The unemployment rate is just one part of the story. Payroll employment, hiring rates, and layoffs provide a fuller picture of the labor market's true pulse. For millions, unemployment is a stressful transition, but with the right support and conditions, it can lead to successful employment. Even in healthy economies, some level of unemployment always exists. Understanding why is key to crafting effective policy and setting realistic expectations. Unemployment arises from various causes, including frictional, structural, cyclical, and other factors. Each requires distinct policy responses. Even thriving economies have some unemployment. The natural rate includes frictional and structural unemployment, estimated at 4–5%. In early 2026, GDP growth outpaces hiring, raising questions about the future of work. Rising output per worker without matching job growth can fuel wage inflation concerns. The widening gap between GDP and employment growth is driven by AI, automation, and capital investment. Policymakers must adapt to this dynamic. Persistent price rises erode purchasing power, diminishing the real value of wages, savings, and economic stability. Inflation is a critical economic challenge. Inflation is the rate at which prices for goods and services rise, reducing the purchasing power of money. Central banks target around 2% annual inflation as a healthy baseline. The Consumer Price Index tracks the average change in prices paid by urban consumers. In January 2026, the CPI showed a 0.2% monthly rise and a 2.4% annual increase. Core inflation, excluding volatile food and energy prices, provides a clearer signal of underlying price pressures in the economy. As prices rise across essentials like food and housing, consumers must spend more to maintain their standard of living, highlighting the burden of inflation. In March 2026, real wages fell, signaling that inflation is outpacing paychecks. This complicates the Federal Reserve's path forward. Inflation reduces purchasing power, creates economic uncertainty, redistributes wealth, and erodes savings, posing significant challenges for individuals and businesses. After months of stability, inflation surged in March 2026, raising concerns about future interest rate decisions and economic stability. The relationship between labor markets and price levels is a fundamental and debated dynamic in macroeconomics, crucial for understanding economic trends. The Phillips curve illustrates a foundational economic concept. Lower unemployment tends to correlate with higher inflation, and vice versa. When labor markets are tight, workers gain bargaining power, leading to higher wages and increased business costs, which in turn drive up consumer prices. This trade-off has guided monetary policy for decades, but modern economies are challenging this dynamic. Rising labor costs often pass on to consumers, especially in service sectors where wages are the dominant input cost. The Employment Cost Index, or ECI, is the gold standard for tracking this pressure, reflecting changes in total compensation, wages and salaries, and benefit costs. The wage-price feedback loop is a self-reinforcing cycle where low unemployment leads to high labor demand, resulting in rising wages and higher business costs. This cycle is why central banks act preemptively, raising interest rates to cool labor markets before wage growth fully transmits into broader inflation. Early 2026 presents a modern dilemma, challenging the Phillips curve. Productivity gains driven by AI boost output without significant job growth, potentially decoupling wage pressure from traditional labor market tightness. Policymakers face a novel environment requiring careful, data-driven navigation. Nominal wages are what you earn, but real wages tell you what you can actually buy after adjusting for inflation. In March 2026, real average hourly earnings fell 0.6%, meaning most workers lost ground despite receiving higher paychecks. When inflation outpaces wage growth, living standards decline. When real wages fall, the gains from working harder or earning more are quietly erased by rising prices, acting as a hidden tax on every American household. It's crucial to understand how inflation impacts your purchasing power. Timely, accurate economic data is the lifeblood of good policy and informed decision-making. These instruments help economists diagnose the economy's health, ensuring that policies are responsive and effective. Several key indicators are crucial for understanding economic trends. The unemployment rate, non-farm payrolls, consumer price index, employment cost index, and Chicago Fed indicators. These metrics provide insights into joblessness, job creation, inflation, wage inflation, and labor market trends. Central banks, like the U.S. Federal Reserve, use labor and inflation data to calibrate monetary policy in pursuit of two mandates: maintaining price stability and supporting maximum employment. These goals guide their actions in adjusting interest rates and fostering sustainable employment. The interplay between labor markets and price stability is complex and consequential. Staying informed by tracking key indicators, understanding the connections between jobs and inflation, and empowering better decisions are essential for individuals, businesses, and policymakers to adapt and thrive.